All right. Hello, Max Keller. Welcome. And welcome to those of you that are tuning in today for the C.P.I. Community Podcast. Today, I'm Dan Rochon. Today, Max Keller and I are going to talk to you about how you can stand out to your clients, close more deals, improve your messaging and your voice, and specifically how you can do that with you doing your own book. Max, welcome. How are you?
Hey, feeling good, doing great. How are you doing today?
Feeling good. Thank you. Is it okay we just sort of dive right into this?
Oh, absolutely.
All right. So you've got a little bit of a niche for yourself that you've been helping real estate agents, business owners, and entrepreneurs to be able to stand out for their clients and to have a voice within their industries. Before we get into that, I want to ask you, what did you do? So you were in the real estate world, home buying world for several years. So tell us about that. How'd you get into the real estate world?
Yeah, so I was a math teacher, and I loved teaching math. I loved sort of just any job that involved, like I said, helping other people. That had been the roles that I've been in beforehand. But teaching is pretty limited financially, so I wanted to make some more money. And a friend of mine got involved in real estate, and he showed me what it looked like, and he was just staying with his job, but just getting like 1 or 2 rentals a year. So that was my original plan, is I was just gonna stay in a math teacher, get a couple of rentals a year, and just sort of build up a little bit of a nest egg. And I just really started to fall in love with real estate. I enjoyed the income opportunities, the opportunities to help people. So eventually just one thing led to another. I left my job teaching, just went full-time real estate, and never really looked back. That was about 5 years ago. And I'm a real estate agent. I'm also an investor. Flipped about 120 properties, and served hundreds and hundreds of people. And so I think for me, it was just about wanting to improve my family's net worth, and improve some of the things that we could do. And really the first couple of years that I made that transition, everything went really smooth. I think around 2017, I'm in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas. The market started to change, and I felt good because I had done a lot of deals at that point. But I really felt like I was only as good as my next deal. And so whether it was an investor deal or a listing, I pretty much was just only as good as my next deal. And so I needed to get a lot of leads. I needed to do a lot of marketing, and it was challenging because my return on marketing spend just kept getting worse and worse. And I was finding myself competing, against deals, for more and more people. It seemed like there was just every day there was more and more people who were entering the market. And
that's the flip business. Is that what you're talking about right there?
Yeah. And on the real estate agent side, I mean, it was everywhere. It was just, all right, just a lot of competition, and I had to figure out, a better way to do my marketing, essentially.
Sure. And so I want to learn more about that. Before I do so, I'm curious, from the time of getting your real estate license before you quit your math teaching job, how long was that?
Yeah. So I got involved. I think I got involved in my first real estate deal. Like, I got 2 houses that I was involved with in like December, and then I quit my job teaching that next May. So it took me about 4 to 5 months to figure out, what to do and how to monetize real estate. And then another 4 to 5 months of doing that to figure out pretty quickly, hey, this is a lot of opportunity. I think the first month that I didn't get a teacher paycheck, I was getting like $3,400, $3,200 after taxes, and all the fees were taken out to be a 7-year, teacher with a master's degree. And my first, which, is not as much as, I make now, obviously. It's still good money. It's funny. I wasn't one of the big complainers in the teacher's lounge about the job. I loved working with the kids. I was at an inner city school. I taught the kids that really struggled, Title I school, and I loved it. I didn't even really complain about the money. I really enjoyed all the time off that I had with my family. I got to, have hobbies, and I just wanted a little bit of extra. And, when you get the real estate bug and you really go all in, it can produce great results. And so I remember the first month, so we get paid through the summer, every month on the 20th. And so the first month which would have been September 2016. So literally, yeah, like, I guess 4 years ago from today, when I was full time, I remember instead of getting $3,400, what I was used to getting, or $3,200, it was over 32,000 from a flip that I completed. And so I was like, okay. I mean, it's not a hard decision.
So you were like, you went to the wife and you're like, okay, honey, 3,400, 34,000, choose.
Yeah.
About the way it went.
Yeah. I mean, that was pretty much it. I'd already decided by then, because, teaching jobs are weird. You're not really supposed to just like leave. So I'd already put in my notice, but that was really kind of like validation that I had made the right decision. I had set it up, correctly. And then, just pretty much never looked back. But, even though those are great profits, there's business expenses. And like I said, I still had to make some big shifts. If you fast forward 2 years later from that moment, or a year and a half after that, I had to make some big shifts in my marketing to, continue to get good deals and to continue to grow the business. It's definitely, there's a lot of competition, and standing out is a thing that's on a lot of people's minds.
So how did you do that specifically? How did you stand out? What shifts did you make?
Yeah. So the first thing that I did was identify there's a problem. So I was like, what I'm doing is not working. The money that I'm putting out in marketing, I'm just getting a less and less return. So the first thing I had to do is figure out why. Because if I don't diagnose what the true problem is, then, how do I know the solution is going to fix it? So step one was to figure it out. And it really didn't take too long to figure it out. I realized that, I was sending out the same messages to the same people as every other, real estate pro, whether it's a realtor, whether it's an investor. I was sending out the same messages to everybody and looked like everybody else.
What was that message?
All the different ways I could help them. So whether it's, if you want to, list your property, or you want to, sell it to somebody directly, reach out to me, I can help you. And they're getting that message from anybody who has a list and access to, some marketing budget. So
Got it.
I was like, okay, well, at that point I had probably done about 60, 70 deals. So what I did was I looked back through the list of deals that I had already done. And I was like, okay, let's look at these and see, like, are all of these really created equal? Am I really making the same amount of money per deal? And for me, because I had tried everything. I had tried, different websites, pretty much anybody who had some sort of marketing strategy that was out there, a new marketing strategy, a secret list, something where it's a limited number of people. I felt like I had tried pretty much everything. And so I was like, okay, I've got to try to jumping on every new marketing option isn't really making a huge difference. So I was sending out more, direct, response stuff, whether it's digital or physical, than ever before. And like I said, my return just got smaller, and I knew it wasn't sustainable. The whole reason that I got into real estate was to, do something that was sustainable, that could grow my net worth. And it just felt like a grind. I was like, if this keeps up like this, I'm just going to go back to teaching. So I did a deep dive analysis on my deal, and this was huge. This gave me so much insight. I was looking for deals that pretty much match one of three criteria, hopefully all three. I wanted to obviously make good profit on my deals, because not every deal you make the same amount, whether it's, the amounts that you negotiate, how much time, how much emotional, stress that is in the deal. So I was looking for good money. I wanted deals where when I was working with the seller, they weren't fighting me. It was like, I was more like a consultant. And then the last one is, I wanted to have fun. I wanted to be people that I helped. And so I went through the list. The bad news is that most of my deals weren't all three. But the good news is that, the deals that I did have that were all three of those, they all met the same, criteria. And I real quick found the pattern. You don't have to be a math teacher to figure it out. And it was that they were senior homeowners. And I was like, okay, why? And so then I started calling up some of the senior homeowners that I had worked with before in the past, find out why they picked me, how they found out about me. Because I figured that if I had a group of folks that I could target that were less price sensitive, they were more about the relational, business. They were more interested in, the trust and somebody genuinely wanting to help them. I knew that was a good avatar for me, a good group to go after. So I was like, well, how do I get more of them? So I was like, okay, where do I, where did I get these leads to begin with? I did a deep dive and went into that. I found out that most of them really I wasn't doing anything very systematically. It was just sort of random. So I was like, okay, I need to be more systematic. And then I called a motivated seller's son that I had worked with. And I remember during the deal, and I bought the house directly on this particular deal.
Okay.
I remember on the deal, they said that they had paid, or they had gotten some offers that were higher than mine. And so I reached out to the son. I had helped the mom. I bought the mom's house, and then I helped her find an assisted living facility to live in. And I just said, hey, why did you, choose me? Do you remember me? It's been about 6 months. He was like, oh, yeah, I remember you. It's like, well, at the time you had some better offers from other people. And I didn't really bring it up at the time because I didn't want to blow up the deal.
Of course you didn't.
So I was like, so why did you, go with me? I'm glad you did. And he just said, you really seem like you cared about our family. You gave us a bunch of different options that we didn't even know about. And, you just kind of tell, like, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, like when somebody really is trying to help and when somebody's just trying to get a deal or get a listing. And so he got a good feeling, and that really helped solidify that we were on the right track.
Okay, let me make sure, Max, that I get exactly what you're saying so I can maybe repeat that back to you. So the first piece of it was you identified the problem.
Yes.
Then you identified the avatar.
Yes.
Like, who is my perfect client?
Yes.
And then you did the research to say, if that's my perfect client,
right, then
what caused my perfect client to hire me?
Exactly.
Okay. And so all right. So now we've identified those 3 areas. So go ahead and move forward. So what's next?
Yeah. So like, it was weird. It was like, normally when I was doing a rehab or property or something, it's like peeling an onion. The more of those, the further we looked behind the walls, like the worse it got. And for this, it was like the more we peeled back the onion, asked more questions, and did the research, the better it got. And I was really excited. One of the things I noticed, now I'll admit it, I'll be the first to admit it, I wasn't the best at always tracking like all of my numbers and all of my KPIs. I mean, I was just running around most of the time, answering calls, doing all the things that it takes in the transaction. So when I kind of hit the pause button a little bit and looked back, I was noticing that these folks where I identified were better leads for our business, I was closing them at a much higher percentage. It wasn't just that I was making more profit per deal. It had a higher close rate. Like I said, I reached out to that one gentleman and he was like, yeah, we worked with you. There was a $10,000 difference between the price that I offered and someone else. And this isn't like $1 million house where that's a really small percentage. I mean, I'm here where, the median home value is $250. 10 grand's a lot of money. And so I don't know how to explain it. It was just like every phone call, I would get a little bit new discovery and my eyes would open up a little bit, wider. And where I actually got the idea to write a book was, definitely not from me. I mean, if people who know me, that first 36, 37 years of my life, I really wasn't reading a lot of books. I'd listen to some podcasts. I'd maybe listen to some, read some blog posts and stuff, but I wasn't reading a ton before real estate for sure. And I definitely wasn't writing. I was a math teacher and I'm actually dyslexic. So that's what's crazy now is that I've written all these books and all these people license our content and we just got back from a big convention in Tampa and we just had company after company coming up to us, ask how they could get involved in what we're doing for their students. And it's just hard to believe. But so what I'm saying to everybody here is just like, it doesn't just stay open, to the possibilities, keep your heart really genuine, which is, helping people and making money for your business. And then it'll just start to unfold. And that's what happened one evening. I was at a lady's house. I was buying her house and I was helping her find another place to live. So at that point in time, I was starting to refer people to my trusted list of, places for senior housing. I was noticing that as I was learning more about senior housing, these seniors, it's really interesting. They've lived in their home a lot of times for a long time and they don't know
emotional attachment. I would expect. Is that true?
Oh, huge emotional attachment, huge, just like not sure who to trust. You know, a lot of
Yeah.
times the folks are living by themselves. You know, I had a real close relationship with my grandma, and
Yeah.
you know, basically she took care of me and helped take care of me, and then I took care of her. So I was the grandson that, like, you know, paid the bills for her. I took her to the doctor. You know, I got her groceries before there was delivery and all that kind of stuff. And I saw all the people coming.
Back in the olden days when they show up with a droid or with a you know, what are those things called,
the drones.
the drone, yeah, when they like land in your front porch with some pumpkins from a drone.
Yeah, no, we had to walk to the grocery store.
Oh my goodness, what?
Uphill both ways. My grandma was a real throwback. She's the coolest lady, and it was such a joy to take care of her. She's my best friend. She passed away in 2011, but I still think about her every day, and in the work that we do. But yeah, she actually never had a driver's license. She was born 1920, never had a driver's license her entire life, and she's living in a city. She's not living in, like, you know, Germany, where my grandparents came from, or her grandparents came from. She's living in the middle of Dallas. And she got no car. She's walking to the grocery store until she couldn't. I took care of her. But I noticed that there's a lot of seniors out there who maybe they don't have somebody looking out for them. The adult children are, like, spread out all over the country. And so, yeah, there's a consultative approach that really was needed. And so I was doing that. And so I'm at the seller's home. I'm helping them. We're doing all the paperwork. And the daughter of the seller said, "Hey, you know, you've helped us out a ton. Like, we can't thank you enough. Have you ever thought about writing a book about this, you know, your knowledge?" And I was like, no. Like, I would.
This is a client's daughter.
Daughter, yeah. And I was
client's daughter said, "Hey, you should write a book."
Yeah, and I was like, "I don't think so. Thanks, I appreciate that, though." You know, and then I went back.
Before you carry on, Max, just that the display of the trust and the appreciation in the way that you help them, for that daughter to suggest to you, "Hey, Max, you've really helped us out. Have you ever considered writing a book?" I mean, that in of itself speaks volumes for, you know, for you as a business person. So I want to acknowledge you for that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I mean, it felt great, and you know, it didn't always feel good. You know, I felt like I felt that sometimes, like, you know, all the work I was doing, you know, like, you know, it was good and maybe people liked it, but it was still hard to get the word out on a huge, you know, on a huge amount. It was still hard to stand out, even though I was taking a consultative approach. You know, and taking a consultative approach isn't always, you know, sunshine and rainbows, because I was in these folks' homes sometimes for 3 or 4 hours, you know, explaining all their options and helping them, and then kind of starting all over with building the trust when their adult children were coming in. I had another person helping me on my team, but yeah, it just didn't feel scalable. But then when I got the idea of the book, because I stay open-minded, at first reaction, I was like, no. But then when I thought about it, I was like, you know, I invested about a year really going on this quest to learn as much as I could about everything in the senior housing journey that was important to these seniors. And a book would allow me to go from, the person who knows a lot about senior housing to, you know, the authority and expert on senior housing. So I actually just pivoted. I changed my mind from that evening, and I said, you know, I am going to do that. So what I did is I just made a list of all the questions that I had been asked by the seniors and their adult children, kind of just made a T-chart, gave some, you know, info about it, answered it, pros and cons, and then packaged it up in a how-to book and got it printed out 100 copies and started giving it out. That's really how the book journey started.
How long did it take you to write?
A while. You know, I don't know exactly. I know that I shut down parts of my business for at least a little bit for a good 6 months. So I'd say maybe took about 200 hours to write the book, and then about another 100 to write the workbook. And now for future books, it's gone much faster. But the first one, it takes a lot of time. You know, it took me a lot of time. You know, the good news is that when we went through that journey, it's people really responded to it. You know, at the end, I'll give your audience, I've created a gift for your audience that, you know, can help them get through the process a little bit easier and save them some time, because I didn't really know when I wrote it, like I knew what I hoped would happen, to be honest, my goals were kind of small. I was hoping that I would give it to somebody, and and it would keep me from having to repeat the same thing over and over again for 3 or 4 hours.
So there was like a lazy way, but then you had these unintended outcome, right?
Exactly. Yeah. At first it was just like, okay, I've heard it's a good idea to make a book.
Yeah.
You know, I can give it out. It just kind of makes sense. And then the benefits that I receive from it, that really anybody can receive for it, for any kind of niche or any sort of, folks are trying to serve. It's really just, it has some universal benefits that I didn't even know existed. And now we thrive on.
Fantastic. So step one was to document every single question that they had asked you.
Yeah.
And then step two was basically to answer every one of those questions. And then it took you about 200 hours to do that. 200 hours to do that. Yes. And about another 100 hours to do the workbook.
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Now that helped you to gain credibility, to gain authority, to also sort of streamline the process so that by the time you show up, you've already paved the way to be able to set their expectations so that they don't really have any questions for you at that point, where now it's just pretty much just moving forward. Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah, it's sort of different questions. So,
okay.
So what would happen before was that somebody would call us, we would feel pressure to like go out there really quickly. There would be a lot of other people that they were considering, looking at, and we hadn't really, stood out in the minds of those folks. And we were hoping that when we go out to the home, it'd be our chance in, 60 minutes or so to stand out and have people choose us. And but when we had the book, it changed the whole thing. One of them was we started getting a lot more referrals. The reason for that being that it was just, if somebody had a physical copy of our book and they knew somebody in their just warm area that was having similar struggles, it just sort of made sense to just physically give them the book. That person would read it and then they would call us. So we started having people who called us who had received our book, and I honestly don't even know how they got it. They might have bought it online. They got it from a friend. So that was sort of a new thing that wasn't happening just based on, I wasn't having people before call me saying, oh, I got this yellow letter in the mail, or I got this postcard, or I got this wall calendar, and I gave it to a friend at work. I didn't have that. But with the book, I started getting more of that. So that was huge. Another thing is folks were calling us and they didn't know that we had a book. They were doing the kind of normal, we're in a seller's market. I've got the cheese. You want the cheese. You're going to have to do what I say, positioning. And we would real quick switch it and just say, well, have you gotten a copy of our book yet? Because we only work with people who have, checked out our book first. We don't want you to work with us if we're not the right fit. And then all of a sudden when they found out,
use it for a qualifier then as well.
Yeah, it was huge. So then they're like, oh, a book, what? No, I didn't know you had a book. And I said, well, that's okay. I go, how about this? Everybody that we work with has read at least chapter 3 of our book. It's How to Sell Your Home, Pros and Cons of Each. I tell them that we wrote the book on senior housing, which is a powerful statement. And I go, but you don't have to be a senior to get the benefit from chapter 3. It's all the ways to sell your home, pros and cons of each. If I send you a copy of the book via courier, I'll autograph it for you. Would you be able to read that before we come over to your house? Because that's a non-negotiable. And they'd say, oh, sure. Yeah, no. They're like totally thrown off. And they're like, what's going on right now? And I go, okay, cool. I go, so here's the deal. You said that you need us to come over in 5 minutes, which is like what everybody in competitive markets say. I said, is there really a need for us to come over in 5 minutes? You going in foreclosure? Like, what's going on? Help me understand. And they're like, no. I mean, yeah, a couple of days is fine. I'm like, okay, cool. I go, well, here's the deal. I'm going to send you a copy of the book. And so what's happened is now we're not on their process. We're on our process. We need to be on our process because we're the real estate professionals. We're the ones who have done hundreds of transactions, and how we serve our business and their interests together in alignment is to follow that process, right? And so now they're on our process. They're working with us. And I say, okay, I'm going to send you a copy of the book. Will you have chapter 3 read before we come over? And they say, yes. I go, okay, I'm going to send it to you. We're going to come over in 2 days and we're going to talk about your house. And they're like, okay. So what happens is we send over a couriered copy of the book. They read chapter 3, but guess what other chapters they read? All of them. You know what I mean? They're not going to just read chapter 3. They're interested. An author has never given them a copy of the book. This is a multi-$100,000 decision that they're making. And so they read the book, 4 or 5 hours, they go through it, they tab up pages that they have questions with. And now when we're showing up, a few things have happened. One of them is we're taking pictures and selfies with them, you know, which was not happening with our old marketing. They were like, wow, it's really you. Can I get my picture? I'll be like, sure. And we take pictures. I mean, you see how, like, you know, we're not, the trust is up, the defenses are down. You know, I bring them a copy of my workbook. I say, hey, I brought you another gift. You know, if anybody who's in business knows about, you know, the law of reciprocity, it's very powerful. You give somebody something, they feel, you know, obligated to, you know, return, right? So I
Max,
show up.
There's something really great that I want to make sure that the listeners and the viewers got.
Absolutely.
Which is, you sort of went right past it, but it's so vital. You mentioned it's just a part of the process. So now we take them from them being in control to us getting them into our system, getting them into our process, so that we can have a predictable result.
Yeah.
Right. So I want to talk to the agents, whether if you embrace Max's philosophy and his tactics, which I think is beautiful and really valid and really helpful, or whatever else that you do to be able to help clients and get hired more often. It's just follow a process. Find a process that you enjoy, that you're good at, and then follow it so that you're doing things every single time the same way or very similar. Would you agree with that, Max?
Yeah, I agree. You summarized it perfectly. 100%. It's all about being pre-sold before you go to the appointment is key for a few reasons. You know, one of them was, so I remember real specifically, you're working with a new customer that we're bringing on as a client. And one of the questions that I always ask as part of our process when we show up is I say, who else are you, you know, thinking about using, you know, to help you with your house? Mm-hmm. And the lady goes, well, you know, almost kind of confused and was like, well, nobody. And I go, okay. And I go, hey, you know, we had built some pretty good rapport. And I said, you know, I'm okay with that. Obviously, I'm here for a reason. I want to help you. But, you know, can I just ask why? And she goes, well, actually, so there were a couple of people that I called before I, you know, called you. And then I met you and you sent me a copy of the book, and I've never experienced anything like that. And the info in there is like amazing. And there was a ton of questions in there that, you know, I had, and there were some questions in there that I didn't even know to ask that I can see now are super important. I also had some people that I planned on calling after you because I didn't know anybody on a really deep level. I was just sort of working through the stack of mail. I was working through some recommendations. And so a couple of things happened. Number one is that when she found out about me, the people that she called before me, she called and said that not to come over anymore. Yeah. And then she didn't call the people after me. And her exact words to me was, she goes, why would I work with anybody else when I already have the person, you, who wrote the book on this subject? And
fantastic.
That was before anybody else like got plugged into our licensed content. This is when I'm just using it for me and one of the people in my business who are helping me buy. And so we kind of over time, over about 18 months, uncovered all of these little hidden secrets that people who are authors know about, but you know, aren't as well known in the home buying space, in the real estate world. And part of it was, you know, as she said, you know, the book was speaking to me. I found that it's very difficult to change anybody's mind or opinion on anything, but if they think it's their idea, why they want to do something, then they're more likely to go with it. And so the book does a really interesting job of teaching them some new things. And it's a third party, like objective source. It's, even though I wrote it, or, you know, some of my students write them, it's different. And so when they read the book, the sellers will tell us, I decided to do this. I came to the conclusion that I want to do this. And I'm like,
it's their idea.
Exactly. So that helps a lot. You know, if you study pendulum theory, the more that you push somebody in one direction, the more they want to resist and go in the other direction. There's just some benefits of just being a celebrity as far as, you know, your positioning as an expert in the minds of whoever you're marketing for, or whoever your ideal person for. But we have gotten a lot of horsepower out of and some other books have kind of spawned out of it. but writing how-to books for the ideal avatar in the real estate investing space, and then using that book to create more credibility in our individual businesses, getting the folks to pass it around and get more referrals, be pre-sold before we show up. And we've even gotten some local speaking opportunities, which have been huge. These are many benefits that, like I said, authors have been experiencing for a long time. But what we're doing is just a little bit new in the real estate investing space.
What do you write in the autograph?
What's that?
What do you write in the autograph?
When I autograph the book?
Yeah. Do you have something you say to them, or is it just your name, or how do you do that?
Yeah, I just sign it and I put my phone number. We always want to have our contact information handy. And we found that from some of the going back in the studies is that the reason that real estate agents and real estate investors lose out on a lot of business, it's not because they don't have all the magic phrases to say, when they meet the person in person. Most of the deals that fall off are the ones where they met somebody 6 months, 9 months, a year before they had a need. And then by the time that person actually had a need, whether it's listing, they want a buyer's agent, or they want to sell their house directly to somebody, they don't remember that conversation.
Right.
So they end up going with the most credible person that reaches them the most recent to when they have a need.
Yeah, plus they got the book on the shelf, and that's a pretty easy way to remember to give you a call as well. Max, you mentioned that that you have a gift for the audience. As we wrap up, can you share that with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So we created the real estate professional checklist. It's a book writing checklist, and what this is a way for you to map out if you're thinking about this, or you think this might sound interesting or benefit your business. You can dive into this or just improve your marketing message. And it breaks down, basically it's sort of the strategy guide that I wish I had when I started writing my first book, but just wasn't available in the real estate space. So it teaches you how to find your ideal audience to write a book to, how to structure and organize your thoughts, how to overcome writer's block. So it's something that we created that's the first of its kind, and it's easy to get. All you have to do is go to dealschasingyou.com /Rochon, ROCHON. Okay, so
hey,
Dan, your last
that name. That's a good name. Where'd you come up with that?
I know, right? It's a good one. Well, I want to make sure they remember it. So that's all you got to do. Yeah, just
say it one more time, Max.
Sure, no problem. dealschasingyou.com /ROCHON. And if your audience goes there, they can download a free copy of the book, so they don't have to pay for it, and they can go through it and start setting up some real credibility marketing, some education marketing for their real estate business.
Max, I almost feel like you're making a dinner reservation for me, because every time I call and I put my name down on the list, I have to spell it out like that. So it sounds almost the same as what you just did. I love it.
Good. Awesome. Well, hey, there you go. I'll take your order.
All right. Fantastic. Max, how can we get in touch with you besides downloading the checklist? If I'm a real estate agent or an entrepreneur or a business owner, and I want to learn more about how I can become the authority to the industry, how can I do that?
Sure. Yeah, they can just check us out. Easiest way is just to go to our website, dealschasingyou.com. We have some free content there. We have videos. We have articles. You can check us out on our Facebook page, dealschasingyou.com. And like I said, just check out our videos, check out our articles. Last year, we got some awards in the industry, and what we're doing is innovative. It's interesting. We're taking something that's very old. Books have been around for, thousands of years, really. But the way that we're applying it in the real estate space, the way we're really speaking to the voice of the ideal person that we're trying to go after is, the ways that we're helping people get plugged into this with as easy as possible, so they don't have to shut down their own business. They can plug in to what we've already created is something that's new and unique. So just learn about it in those two places, and love to chat and answer any questions that people have.
Fantastic. And for the listeners, one more thing that I want to offer to you as well is I'd love to be able to offer you the opportunity for you to experience the C.P.I. systems. So CPI is consistent, predictable income, which means that for real estate agents, which means that you're going to get more control, more time, and more money. And so I invite you to a content-driven Q&A session I'm hosting this Friday on October 9th from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And I'm going to introduce you some specific techniques that will allow for you and your business to get up and running faster, earn more money, and do so in an easier manner. If you're interested, just send me a direct message on Facebook. Max already spelled my name for you, Dan Rochon, R-O-C-H-O-N. Just find me on Facebook. Max, thank you so much for your time today. And I look forward to the agents. Thank you for your time as well, to your success.
Give us a thumbs up by clicking the like button below. Don't forget to subscribe to